Hi, eighth graders. It's Mrs. Ashby. I'm your librarian. I hope you remember me. I'm here to tell you about Cafe Book. We talked about it last year, and some of you I know were part of Cafe Book last year, but of course it's a new year with a whole new set of books. So I want to tell you about it again in case you've forgotten, or maybe you weren't here last year when we discussed it. So Cafe Book is usually a lunchtime reading program. It will be different this year because so many things are different. It We meet and we discuss books, and that's all there is to it. Things you liked and things you didn't like about the books. There are no assignments or tests or projects to do. It's just talking and discussing things that you've liked and didn't like. We are going to meet this year on Tuesdays from 9:15 to 9:45 in the morning before your classes start. It will be about every other week. We'll meet by Google Meet, and those are the dates. Those are also on our school webpage, so you can see them there. And we'll also have a Google Classroom where you can have discussion board about the books that you liked or other things about the meetings that you liked. So these are the books for this year. And there are 16, as there always are. We ask that you try and read maybe 3 of them, but again, we don't test you on them. Just see if you can read some. I'm going to tell you about just 3 of these books so that you get a taste for the kind of books that are on Cafe Book this year. Eventually, you'll hear about all of them, but we're just going to talk about 3 right now. So here's the first one, How We Became Wicked. So How We Became Wicked takes place in a world where there is a huge virus that has killed off a lot of the population. We picked this book before COVID, by the way. But in this case, the virus is spread by mosquitoes. Except they're not exactly mosquitoes. They're bigger than mosquitoes. They're kind of silvery, but and we call them singers. And if you get stung by a singer, then you get this disease that turns you wicked. Now, you can't tell the wicked easily. The wicked look like everybody else. Sometimes they sound like everybody else, but eventually they'll say things like, I can't wait to see what you'll look like without your skin. And they end up killing people. So, our main character, Astrid, she lives in a town that has been protected by her grandfather. He saw what was coming and he built this town and they covered it with a huge dome so no mosquitoes can get in or out, no singers can get in or out. And if they leave, they put on like bee suits so they're protected from the singers. Astrid doesn't have to do this because when she was a baby, some people thought that maybe if you put babies outside at a certain age and let them get stung, then they would be immune. And it actually worked for Astrid. She was not affected by the singers, she doesn't get sick at all, but it didn't work for most of the babies they tried this with. Most of them got the disease and died. So Astrid is safe, nobody else in town is. As the book begins, there's an island nearby their town, and the island has a lighthouse on it that lights up for the first time ever that Astrid can remember. And so she feels like there must be somebody over there, maybe somebody who is her own age, because there's only one other person in town who's her same age, or maybe somebody else that they should be helping. The adults in the town, tell her to ignore it and that it doesn't mean anything, but she's convinced that there's somebody else over there. I have no secrets. So Gemma has cerebral palsy, and her manifestation of this disease is she's in a wheelchair and she cannot talk at all. Now, she can think, she has no issues mentally, she just can't communicate at all. So she has a caretaker named Sarah, and she loves Sarah. Sarah loves her. They get along really well. But Sarah has a boyfriend named Dan who Gemma does not like at all. Dan acts like he's really nice when Sarah's around and when other people are around, but when it's just him and Gemma, he says mean things to her. He tells her she's stupid. He tells her he wishes that his girlfriend would leave her behind and go spend time with him. And after a boy in town disappears, Dan confesses that he had something to do with that disappearance. So Dan is also a criminal. But Gemma can't say anything to anybody because she can't communicate. And then a little bit after that, Sarah goes out on a date with Dan and Sarah disappears. Now, in the meantime, Gemma has gotten some help, some assistive devices that allow her to spell out words a little at a time and then slowly communicate even more than that. So she's starting to be able to talk about things. And Dan finds out that she can now communicate, and he's concerned about what she might tell people about what he has said in the past. And then the last one I'm going to tell you about is They Called Us Enemy by George Takei. So George Takei was on the original Star Trek movie or TV show, so you might know him from that. He's done a lot of things since then. But this is his true story, and it's a graphic novel. You can see the picture there on the right of one of the pages inside the book. George Takei is Japanese American. His parents came here from Japan, but they had lived here his entire life and for a lot of years before he was born. But at World War II, after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, then the United States government felt like maybe Japanese Americans were working for Japan or were here as spies. And so all the Japanese Americans were rounded up and put into camps where they were held captive by the government. So this is his true story of the internment camp where he spent almost all of his childhood and all of his teen years before finally he got old enough and the government decided these people were not a threat to our country and let them go. So it's a section of United States history that you might not have heard much about because people at the time didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And yeah, now we're starting to see the problems there and starting to feel like we should talk about this more. So this is George Takei's real story of his life growing up in an internment camp. So those are just 3 of the books on Cafe Book this year. If you're interested, as I always say, try it out. If you come to a few meetings and you don't like it, that's fine. You can tell me and I will take you off the list. It's no problem at all. So go to our school website and you'll find on the library page a form that you can fill out that will tell us that you're interested, and then we'll send you a notice when it's time for our first meeting. I hope we'll see you there.